That basically means that they're retiring from an active role of service as a deacon, but not really as a deacon, because it's kind of like a Marine. Once you get to be one, you're just one. So what we want to do today, Carol Teal and myself are going to do this, and Mike would normally do that, Mike Day. He is the chairman of deacons. Mike had to work, and so Carol is chairman of vice. I'm no vice chairman. Vice chairman, okay. And so he is going to do that. And in a little while, we're going to invite the families to come up and stand. We're going to let these guys. You want to anyway? Okay. You're going to hang around. All right. 54 years, did not leave. What we want to do is, first of all, say that we're giving these gentlemen recognition from the church for all of their years of service. That's what these plaques are for. But we would just encourage you to give them a blessing today by staying with us for lunch. It's already prepared. There are tables here and in the other room, and so you're welcome to be a part of that. I had the honor of working with these guys and will continue to have that honor, I pray, for some time. But for 20 years now, over 20 years, and they have served God in many important ways within this church family that had some things to do with being upfront and taking care of things visibly, but most of it has to do with their spiritual character and their ability to be peacemakers and work behind the scenes to make things happen on a spiritual level in the church that needs to happen. I'm going to give Carol a chance to say something before we present to Brother John.
All right. Well, it's a privilege for me today to be able to do this for John and for Jesse. And I want to start out with John. And many of you knew Bernice, and I can't say anything about John without saying something about Bernice, because whenever he was ordained, well, she went to work too. And I had the privilege of going through Master Life 1 and Master Life 2 with John and Bernice, and we were a lot younger in our Christian walk at the time. And Bernice's gift was a gift of hospitality. Her home was always open. She was ready to serve at a spur of the moment, and she really enjoyed it. And you couldn't have asked for a more godly couple just to look up to. Now, we are today giving a certificate for the time that John spent as a deacon here at Little Cypress. But I'm going to tell you briefly that John used to be a real good baseball coach. Now, he didn't have a very good baseball team, but he was very patient with us. And for those of y'all that know or knew John several years ago, very, very competitive. John was very competitive. And where we failed him on the baseball diamond, well, he'd make it up to us at the basketball court. And although there is quite a bit of age difference when we practice basketball, John played basketball with us too, and we had a good time. And again, their home was open to us when we needed a place to go, and we thank you for that, John. John has some family members here today. Would y'all just stand up real briefly there, if you would? Of course, most of you know Scott, and this is his son, that's Matthew and Chloe. It's good to have y'all with us. Thank you. John, on behalf of Little Cypress Baptist Church, and just thanking you for the time spent, not only as a deacon, but as a Sunday school teacher, as a treasurer for some 40 years. We thank you very much for your love and for everything you've done for us. Is there something that you would like to say?
I'd like to tell you a little bit of a story about my way of life. I came to this church. I was in important. Remember when we used to have the Sears store? Well, I used to go to the Sears store about every week. And we kept, I'd go look at the tools, and Bernice would look at clothes, and then we'd come back by. We'd drive by this little church. It was a different church. And it was a different church then, which is, we know that it's been rebuilt, and God's blessed us with this church. And but I'd go by there after we'd come back from Sears or wherever we had been, and I told my son Scott back there. I told Scott, we're going to that church one day, and he said, are we dead? I said, yeah. We're going to that church. And we came by, I don't know, several months later, and we got beside the church. I said, Scott, we're going to church tomorrow. He said, oh, Dad, is that right? Well, we came to the conclusion that we'd do that. So we came to church the next day, or the next Sunday, and we never had such a great time. And that was God working. But so we came to church the next Sunday, and we've never been out since. Amen.
Amen.
I have tried. I don't want to come to church. Must be a reason. The real reason I know is today is Jesus Christ. I know that if it wasn't for Him, we haven't got a chance. And anyway, it had an influence on us going to church, and so I started church, is my son accepted the Lord when he was in Africa. And that was always on my mind. I said, man, you better take care of him and take him where you should be going. So anyway, we finally, as I say, we finally got started. And since I've been in this church, I've tried to do what was right. And it's some tough times, but we Carol there knows more about me than anybody, I think. It's something that I am so thankful for going through. Since I joined the church, I've tried to do a little bit of everything that I possibly could do, and I've covered a lot of the points in the church. I've been interested in many different facets of the church and what goes on and what we do. And and Bernice and I both were saved here in this church. And I'm going to say it's a different church. I wish them all the best, and everyone in here. Some I don't know you, and you don't know me, but I left you up all in prayer. Father, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my time in the church. And a lot of things that I'm talking about today are in writing. Like my testimony I gave a long time ago. It hasn't changed. I just want to thank all of you for how wonderful you treated me over the years. And excuse me for being so emotional. That's the way I am.
Okay. Just a couple of notes, and while Scott's here, I don't know if Scott wants to say anything. He's welcome to. He wrote his testimony. He was just talking about during the I Wrote Mine campaign. Some of you may remember when we did that as a church family. We need to do that again. But my experience with John started as I was driving a bus to the Promise Keepers event in Washington, D.C., and some folks from First Baptist Nederland were going, and folks from Little Cypress Baptist Church. And I was not pastor yet. I was the student minister there. And this guy piled on the bus, and we had quite an experience as they came up. Liz and I were already there in D.C., and then I drove the bus back for them. The air conditioner broke on the way up there, and so they were reeking pretty hard by the time they got to D.C. And then they grabbed here's one little hotel room that we have, and we're supposed to be checking out. And here comes a busload of guys. They're going to go through and do something, that spit bath or whatever, to try to get ready to go out for the event. And then they reeked all the way back, and Liz got to enjoy the whole thing, of course, all these men. But that was my first experience with Brother John in 1997. He was a part of that event. Of course, a men's teacher in adult too. As Carol said, served on the stewardship committee for decades as church treasurer. He's looking for somebody to take his job, by the way. And so, some of y'all don't know, John sang in the choir. Did you know that? He sang in the choir and was ordained as a deacon June the 21st, 1987. Woody Jackson was pastor when John was ordained. Elizabeth Gross was the church clerk at that time. And so, mentioning Bernice, she also, for 10 years, worked with the Crisis Pregnancy Center of Orange and was actively involved in that ministry, and John supported that entirely as well. As John and I talked about today, one of the things he just told me, he wanted to make sure everyone knew there's only one way to heaven, and that's Jesus Christ. Amen.
And then we had Jesse and Greta. Well, most of y'all know Greta and I have a love-hate relationship. Many times when I stop to see Jesse, I ask her where Greta's at, and Jesse said she went to the back, she didn't want to deal with me today. So, that's understandable, But I want to say this, all kidding aside, in our Sunday school lesson here just a few weeks ago, Greta's name came up. Back in the 80s, when my mother passed, my family come in from out of town, and, I rushed to the house, and most of y'all know, our house is rather small, so it was packed in tight. And who's there? Is Loretta. She's washing dishes and heating up food, and calling people, telling them what we're out of and what we need. Excuse me. And she took care of all of it. Now, I knew Loretta and Jesse at that time, of course, members here and neighbors down the road, but it was an adult-friendly type relationship. But I really believe that her heart is service, and that impacted me back then, and it stuck with me even now. We didn't ask her to. She just come in and did what she needed to do. I know she can do the same for many of you. Well, we've also heard that God can use anything, even terrible situations, to bring out some good. Well, for literally years, they lived down the road from me, and Rita, we'll go back about 3 more, Rita came through, and what came out of Rita, other than many of you losing a lot of things, many people come to Christ, we know about that, but I gained a good friend, and that's Jesse. He lived right down the road from me all those years. He never helped me, I never helped him, we never even asked each other for help, and whenever Rita came along, we needed each other for help, and we still do, and I'm thankful for that. Jesse's been a mentor to me. Brother David mentioned spirit and patience, and for those of you that know me, know I need somebody that can give a, no, you can't say nothing, right? That needs somebody with patience, and Jesse's done that. He's been on many church building trips, and we went to a mission trip in Oklahoma, and I'll share with you, I know he won't mind. He said, well, you know, physically I'm not able to do a lot. I said, Jesse, we don't need your back, we need your brain. And he came, and for all of us that went, we were thankful that he came. He kept us lined out, going straight, and could kind of ease tensions when there was some tension, and we're thankful for that. And Jesse also has some family here today. Would y'all stand up? Those of you that came from Jesse today.